So here's the full TUSK Enduro Lighting Kit off RockyMountain.com. Starting from the left is the dual sport mirror, the universal horn, the front blinkers, mounting brackets for your mirrors, hydraulic brake switch, a wiring harness, a compact control switch, new TUSK handguards for the front blinkers, a rear brake light assembly, a universal on-off switch, and TUSK mini flush mount turn signals. Okay, so I've got my workspace set up. I've got the bike lifted up and ready to go. There's not really anything with the install of the lighting kit that's making me nervous. The thing I'm nervous about is I have to remove the gas tank off this bike to get to the electronics, to hook the wiring harness to the battery and all that. I've never had a fuel injected bike before, so I don't know what to expect. I don't know if everything's got to be pressurized or how that works. I'm also actually a little bit nervous about the brake actuator because of the brake lines. Anything to do with brake lines, I have no experience with it, but I know it all has to be pressurized and I get the basic concept of it. I just don't feel comfortable working on it yet. I have the instructions here, and the first thing that they list is to remove the plastics and the gas tank to get to the electronics. Luckily, I kept the owner's manual. Fuel system, section 8. Removing the fuel tank. 8 Tech 3. So I went to AutoZone and bought a fuel pump, and I'm gonna have to pump out all my fuel. Once you get the rear plastics off and remove the seat, it exposes the last 2 bolts to take the front covers off. Now that I've got all the plastics off, I'm pretty sure that the tank is only held on by this 1 bolt. So now that I have that bolt out, the tank is ready to lift. Towards the rear of the tank, you'll see this maroon clip. This is the electrical connection that we'll have to disconnect and the fuel line. At this point I realize how close I'm working to the battery, and I don't want any chance of a spark to ignite fuel that might spill out when I disconnect the hose. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the battery and remove it. I've checked the owner's manual. The black piece goes on the tank and the blue piece goes into the hose. After fighting to get this clip off, I think I'm going to go ahead and remove the fuel line so I have more room to grab it. The owner's manual recommends to put a towel over it so you don't spray fuel everywhere if there's still pressure in the lines. Wow, I fought to get that off. That comes off first. It's a small clip that actually clips the clip on there. But I used a flathead screwdriver to kind of pry them apart until it finally came off, but it took some work. Now I should be able to remove the plug from the fuel tank and install these plastic pieces that came with the bike. Now the blue piece goes into the fuel line and the black piece goes onto the bottom of the tank. Now I can remove the electrical connector. Now there is one more thing before we take off the tank, and that's a small ground wire at the front. Once you remove these 2 bolts, the connector comes right out, and I'll just disconnect it. Now I can remove the gas tank. So the first thing to install is the wiring harness. They give you a diagram of the front and the rear. Notice that the rear has a fuse here. Only one end of this wiring harness has a fuse, so I know that this is the rear. I'm basically following the existing wiring up next to the ECU and then around the side of the frame past this clip and then up through the forks to the front. Now the second step is mounting the license plate holder and the new brake light. There's only 3 screws that are holding the stock tail light on. I'm going to go ahead and remove all the wiring that's connected to the stock tail light. So the tail light that comes with this kit doesn't come with any screw holes or hardware at all. They just tell you cut it to fit and fashion it with the screws that are already there, or drill some holes for bolts. Now I don't really know a great way to line this up so that the holes match perfectly, so there's going to be a little guessing and hoping involved. Now that I've got the holes drilled for the tail light, I'm going to go ahead and secure the wires along the side because it's going to cover it up when I actually mount it. I'm just going to lightly put these screws in just in case I have to pull more wire back. Okay, that'll be plenty of wire. I'll go ahead and tighten them up. And then I'm going to go ahead and secure these 3 screws on the tail light. To secure the front of this thing, I'm going to have to drill 2 holes and put 2 bolts in. So now I have those 2 screws sticking up, but they won't bother me. Now I've got to install the turn signals, which I'm going to put right here. There's only 1 screw on the back of this blinker, and it just attaches right to the plastic. I'm going to have to drill a hole for it and run the wiring. Again, there's going to be a little bit of guesswork here. Actually, I can probably use this rubber piece to get it pretty accurate. So the instructions that came with the kit say that the black wires from the turn signals connect to the double port black wire on the wiring harness, and that the yellow wires connect to the colored, but they're not yellow wires, they're red wires, so I don't know why it says that. But the blue and the pink go to the left and right, so I'm going to go ahead and put some connectors on there because it doesn't come with them attached, and connect those up. Next, I have to install the hydraulic brake switch. I'm going to mount my horn on these 2 bolts here. The horn comes with 2 holes, which I assume are for mounting right there. I'm gonna have to drill these holes bigger. I didn't record it, but I had to do some fabrication on the holes. Just widen them up a little bit and move one a little bit further down. I'm going to install my flasher relay onto this existing bracket. I had to drill that hole a little bit larger as well. Now I'm going to remove the old hand guards and replace them with the new hand guards that have built-in blinkers. Okay, the main issue that I had that I really didn't have much instruction on was the headlight. The harness comes with a big plug connector here, and then 3 extra wires, a black, a blue, and a white. The instructions say the black is the headlight main, the white is the low beam, and the dark blue is the high beam. Now my instructions were saying to connect these wires to other wires, but I have an H4 bulb with an H4 connector. So their wiring diagram didn't make any sense, so I had to kind of figure it out. You have a green going to the right side of the connector and 2 blacks going to the left. Those 2 blacks are the grounds. Those are not going to move at all. The blue is your high beam, which is on the right side of the bulb. It's the right side connector. And then your low beam is the white wire at the top. So I soldered the blue wire to the actual connector. Now my connector didn't have anything at the top, so I had to use a little butt connector, and I had to kind of manipulate it to where it would fit over the bulb. And now the headlight works. Now I have all these wires that are around the battery that I need to tuck away before I put the seat on. Okay, so I have all my wires tucked under the frame here, and I've reinstalled the fuel tank, and I'm going to give it a test and make sure that it runs and everything works before I start putting everything back together. Okay, I forgot to record that, but I cranked it up and it runs. I looked up and saw my gas light on and forgot that I drained all my fuel from the fuel tank. There was still a little bit left in there, so I'm sure it's fine. I ended up putting my on-off switch on the left side and my control switch on the right, mainly because of room. There's no room here to mount the control switch. It's too big for my handlebars. And the bars taper, they get fatter as they go towards the middle, so I didn't really have the option of putting it any lower. My control switch actually barely fit in front of the front brake reservoir. I really like how the front blinker's mounted into the hand guards. That's nice. Let's see if it works. Horn works. Right blinker. Left blinker. In the rear. Alright, well that's good. Works. Of course the headlight won't work because the bike's not on. But if I cranked it up, they're off. That's your low beam and your high beam. Another thing I'd like to add, the rear brake switch is the only one that came with it. I didn't get a front brake switch. I think you have to order it separately. So when I hit the front brakes, my tail light will not come on. Only when I hit the rear brakes. Alright guys, well that's the end of the install. Hopefully you took something from that video and you kind of have a better idea of what to expect when you buy this kit. I'm recording this about 2 weeks after I did the install. I'm actually finishing up editing it right now. But I wanted to let you know that I went riding the day after I installed it and nothing rattled loose and everything still works. So that's a good sign and hopefully it'll continue to work. But I'll let you know. Time will tell. But until next time guys.